Hey, everybody, and today we've got breaking news. Holy crap. Did you see the Q&A that Justin Posey just did in the Dillon, Montana book signing? Wow, that was a lot of questions and a lot of information. And to me, a lot of it's brand new and very important to solving that poem. So today is Saturday, June 21st, 2025. The book signing was in Dillon, Montana. Looks like it went off without a hitch. There were some delays, but that happens. Big thank you to Emma and Jam, Treasure Hunt with Us, who live streamed the Q&A. And a big thank you for K-Pro. Somehow K-Pro and Emma ended up on the stage waiting for Justin to show up because he was like an hour late because he had so many books to sign. But anyway, thanks to everybody who showed and all that. I couldn't make it, but I watched the live stream. I made notes. Let's talk about it because holy cow, there was some new clues. Hey, what's up, Dan Ferrand? In very early. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I just thought I'd go live real quick. K-Pro is there in the convention center somewhere, probably trying to get out, probably talking to people. She said she signed a bunch of books and shirts, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, first off, Dan, did you watch the Q&A? Have you seen it? Because if you haven't seen it, K-Pro did record it, and we will get it uploaded at some point. I don't know if it'll be tonight or tomorrow. But, she's got to deal with everybody over there. So Treasure Hunt with Us, go subscribe to their channel. Go check out the Q&A. It's just they had, the 2 hours of waiting for Justin. When Jam did his best, he probably talked for 3 hours. Yeah, me too, Dan. I mean, there was some huge stuff in there. If you are serious about finding Justin Posey's treasure, there were some gems in there for sure. Let's talk about them. Then I'm just going to go in order, the notes that I took. I may have missed a couple things. And the answers he gave, I'm paraphrasing. You guys really needed to watch. You really need to watch it yourself. And yeah, right. That's right. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to put Golden Greed on and see if I can figure out what he was talking about. Because to him, it's super obvious. He doesn't know why nobody's picked up on it. Super obvious. So I'm just killing time, letting people get in here. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday night. Diet. Mountain Dew. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Big thank you of all people to Justin Posey, 1 for doing the treasure hunt, 2 for doing the book signing, and 3 for answering all these questions. He clarified some things. He really gave some new info, which is really huge. And yeah, it's something. So let's get right into it, guys. And again, these are my notes I took. I'm paraphrasing his answers, and I'm going to tell you what they meant to me. You may have a different take. What's up, Blub Hose? Did you watch the interview of all interviews? Okay, let's get right into it then. Right off the bat, he jumps into a huge question, and he gives the answer. What is the first clue in the poem that gives you sufficient context? So basically, the way, and thanks to Cynthia who asked the question, Cynthia phrased it as Forrest Fenn told us where warm waters halt was the first clue in his poem. What's the first clue in your poem? And the way Justin worded it was the actionable first clue in the poem that gives you sufficient context as hope surges clear and bright. I better bring up the poem because we're going to be talking about it. As hope surges clear and bright. Can you find what lives in time, flowing through each measured rhyme? Wisdom waits in shadowed sight for those who reads these words just right. So much like Forrest Fenn's poem, the second stanza had the first clue. Actually, in Forrest Fenn's poem, I believe it was the third stanza. But in Justin saying the first actionable to me means something you can act on. It might give you a location. It gives you something to work on. He says the first clue is as hope surges clear and bright. Well, then what's the first stanza for? First stanza could be context on how we read the poem, right? Well, some people, Dan, that's true, Dan. I think some people, though, but I think others may not have picked up on it. So as hope surges clear and bright, first clue. Has anyone reached the checkpoint? Another huge question. Has anyone reached the checkpoint? And he said, again, a little tie into Forrest Fenn. To my uncertain knowledge, no. Surprisingly, and also that was, has anyone reached a checkpoint? And then he says, surprisingly, no one has mentioned the correct answer to the cipher yet. Now, if you watched our shows, me and K-Pro, we know that there is a cipher. He says it's not hard. It's not difficult, but there is a cipher, and he says he's surprised that no one has mentioned it to him yet. So as far as we know, nobody is got the right cipher. At least he is not. It hasn't been sent in to him. The other tech, there's another tech thing. Okay, he put another tech thing that's not a core part of the poem, but he did say that one person has solved it, and he did see it on one social media avenue, and everybody blew past it and didn't give him the time of day. So nobody has solved the cipher that he knows of. He knows of one person that has solved whatever this tech clue is that he added. And now that person did post it somewhere. I would assume it was Discord, but that was just an assumption. He did say social media venue, and everybody just disregarded it and blew right by it. So yeah, people are starting to get some things solved, I guess. John Miller, how's it going? Do you think he's eager for someone to find it so he can move on with his life and put Forrest's legacy in the rearview mirror? I don't think he's eager for somebody to find it, but he did say, and we'll get to it, he said he's surprised that nobody's found it yet. He is surprised that it's not solved yet. So he's making it sound like this might be easier than we're all making it out to be, and that's what we always do. We overcomplicate things. Thanks for joining in tonight, John. And the reason I'm in outer space is because Justin answered some questions that were out of this world, everybody. Some major. Yes, Mark, that's true. And we were going to get to that. I'm going to go in order of what he answered, okay? Are you at least halfway through the poem clues when you reach the checkpoint? So listen to this answer, because this is important. This is the question. Are you at least halfway through the poem clues when you reach the checkpoint? And he said, yes, I think so, which means it's in the poem. Number one, the checkpoint is in the poem, not in the book. It's in the poem. Are you at least halfway through the poem clues when you reach the checkpoint? Yes, I think so. Are there any clues or hints in the songs in your treasure hunt? His answer is yes. There are clues and hints in the songs. Now, we had songs from Netflix, right? And then there are, I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, in the audiobook, I think he added some music, I believe. So there are clues or hints there, which is important to know. Is there a hint in the statement that you traveled over 9,000 miles in 2 trips? And he said the purpose was just to convey that he traveled a great distance. There's no hints in that. He's hit it somewhere along those trips. We know he had a broken leg, etc. No hints in that. For anyone that would struggle carrying 60 pounds, any advice on carrying the treasure and the container? If you figure, and his answer is this. So Cynthia, I don't know if this is her question, but she's saying for anyone that would struggle carrying 60 pounds, the treasure and the container, what advice would you give on carrying it out of its location? This is his answer. Listen to this. If you figured out where the treasure is, you will have sufficient time to decide how to retrieve it. If you figured out where the treasure is, you will have sufficient time to decide how to retrieve it. I mean, that makes it sound as if you don't just go and find it and take it like Jack did with Forrest Fens, or move it or whatever. If you find out where it is, he didn't say if you travel to it. He said if you figure out where it is, you will have sufficient time to decide how to retrieve it. There's something going on here with how he has hidden this thing. And I don't know what it is, but that's a very interesting answer. Yeah, these are the kind of answers that were like, wait, what? Yeah, exactly. They were. What if the treasure is in his jacket? Did Justin seem disappointed? He seems to think he didn't do a good job. No, he did a great job. I think he did a great job. Okay. Why will you not tell us what the container is? He says, I've been hesitant because of AI intelligence. He is really worried about AI, guys. He thinks eventually AI is going to have all the information in the world and will be able to solve these kind of things pretty quick. They'll be smarter than us at some point in the future. So he's worried about AI intelligence, but here's a really awesome answer, and it totally makes sense. He wants to prevent searchers from creating decoys, right? If he says what the container is, if he says how that treasure is hidden, somebody's going to say, look, I found it, make one and put it in the wild and take a video. So he wants to prevent searchers from creating decoys and false claims of finding it, which is good. It's a very good thing he did that. He said a lot of time, there's a lot of time to make it approachable to humans, but not AI. Soon AI will have all the knowledge. So he doesn't want people to say they found it, and if they know what the container is, they can fake it. Good answer. And I like that he did that with his treasure hunt. Now, here's another interesting one about the checkpoint. Do you think when someone reaches the checkpoint, they will be the ultimate finder? And he said again, he gave a recap of the checkpoint, is that whoever finds a checkpoint will know they are trending in the right direction. And he said you find it along the way. The checkpoint is boots on the ground, in my opinion. Okay. He said you find it along the way. The other question about the checkpoint that we already went over, are you at least halfway through the poem Clues when you reach the checkpoint? Yes. So in other words, you are boots on the ground going point to point in the clues. This is my opinion. And you will find a checkpoint that lets you know you're trending in the right direction, that you have the right area. Okay. But the question was, do you think when someone reaches the checkpoint, they will be the ultimate finder? He said 100% you will know you're in the right area. Okay. And that person, the first person to find the checkpoint, they have an excellent chance to find the treasure. Now, he didn't say, yes, when you find the checkpoint, you will find the treasure. But he said there is an excellent chance that that person will be the one to find the treasure. Yeah, lies everywhere. You need to, I don't remember him saying that. So you need to let me know where in the Q&A he actually said he had control of editing. I'm not sure if I got, but maybe I'll get to it. Maybe I missed it. Yeah, these are pretty awesome answers to these questions. Any clues or lines in the poem that change from first draft to final version? He says he wrote the poem in about 6 hours or less. He tweaked 2 words tops. So he changed 2 words in the poem, 2 words tops. Are you planning on ruling out a search state? He says it's too early. He's hesitant to give clues. I mean, the thing's only been out, what, 3 months, I think, his treasure hunt. He will cut out a state if no progress is made over the upcoming months. So he does want this found in the next couple of years. This is not going to be a 20-year thing, in my opinion. But he did say he will consider ruling out a state if it isn't found in over the coming months. I would assume he's going to wait for summer to go by. We're already in June. And in the middle of winter, maybe he'll rule out a state for the next search season, that type thing. Just my opinion. Question was, did you make a blaze on a tree? He said no. That was one of the problems with the forest fen hunt. For those of you that know, you know, because it can get damaged, it can get removed, etc. So he did not make a blaze on a tree. Some people are saying, oh, they wanted to know, is the real treasure out there or is it a proxy? And he said, nope, no proxy. The real treasure is out there. It's not in a bank, a bank's security deposit vault. It's not in a bank and waiting for somebody to find it. It is out there. The real physical treasure is out there. Okay, which is what he said, maintained from the beginning. So, he talks about adventures not in the book, but I'm not going to get into that. I want to focus on the clues that I think relate to the poem and the book. Okay, somebody asked him kind of, what is your advice on how to solve this thing? And he gave a very Forrest Fenn-like answer, but he said the bulk of everything you need is in the book and the poem. The poem is in the book. The bulk of everything you need to find his treasure is in the book and the poem. Also, go watch the Netflix series, then read the book, and then read the poem a few times. Then go back through the Netflix series very slowly. There are 2 hints in the Netflix series. To Justin, they're very super obvious, and he can't believe that nobody has picked up on them. In the Netflix series, he says there are 2 scenes in particular that are super obvious, that they're hints for his book. He says it's in episode 2 or episode 3. He can't remember which one, but at least we know it's not episode 1. In episode 2 or episode 3, he says this is important. This is breaking news, everybody. Make sure you thumbs up for breaking news. He says that the 2 very super obvious clues or hints in the Netflix or in episode 2 and 3, and the scenes do not have him in it. He is not in it, which narrows it down a little bit. It was a scene he had some control over. Now, if that's what you meant, True Lies, that, he only had control of one scene. I see what you're saying. He had control over all of it. Control over one scene doesn't mean he had editing process. To me, those are 2 separate things. But he did say he has control over the scene. All right, let me get back to it here. It was a scene he had some control over. So in my opinion, remember in the beginning, he says, I set up some clues in the beginning of the Netflix doc. I set up some clues in his house. Is it? To me, it sounds like it's a scene in his house that he's not in physically. He's not in it, but he had some control over it because he set it up. It's his house. He set it up for them to film. Okay. So let's, after this is done, I'm going to episode 2 and 3, and I'm going to start seeing if I can figure that what that is. You guys want to do a Discord watch party? See if we can figure it out tomorrow together. Not tomorrow, together. Maybe somebody can set that up in Discord. Okay. Somebody asked him what his favorite color and food was. He says blue and okra. Okra? What? Okra was one of his favorite foods. Okay. What app or system do you recommend to use to stay on public land? He says he reminded everybody the treasure is publicly accessible. Onyx, ONX, is a good app to use to figure out if your land is publicly accessible. And he says if you're a little bit more technologically advanced, go ahead and use it. Use Gaia, Gaia. So it's not Onyx. It's called OnX, ONX, OnX. And Gaia, Gaia, is what he recommended to use to know if you are on public land or if it's publicly accessible. They asked him if he could specify if it's on federal or state land, and he said it's publicly accessible as of today. He would not specify federal or state land, but he said it is publicly accessible as of today. Yeah, I know, Huli, because I went live right away. I think there's got to be an hour time in between, but people will find it that are looking for this. Okay. All right, let's go back to it. Some of the questions weren't really related to the book or the poem, but that's okay. Can we use waterways to access it? This is kind of an interesting one. He says, I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me verbatim, but he says he believes, and then he brings up the state of Montana. In the state of Montana, you can go on a public waterway. Even if that waterway goes through private land, you can actually go through that waterway. He says as long as your location, the treasure, is publicly accessible, it's fair game. And a waterway, he made it sound as if a waterway is one way you could access it. Kind of a weird answer to me, but make of that what you will. Did you make the cover art on the book? Did you make the cover art on the book? Yes, he did design the cover art on the book, which is the map, right? But then he gave it to a designer, a book editor, and they cleaned it up and it evolved. But yes, he did create the artwork on the book. Now, here's an interesting one. Did the double arcs exist or had to be created? Now, Justin is answering these questions verbatim is what they're asked. This question wasn't asked in a very good way because he went back and forth on this. And once me and K-Pro upload it, we'll probably do a show where we actually listen and then stop and talk about it. That'll come up in the next week or so. Did the double arcs exist or did they had to be created? And he says, that's a tricky question. He says, it's a strange question knowing what I know. And I won't answer that question. And he went into, did they exist? In other words, did they exist or have to be created? And he was kind of getting a little picky on the word exist. In other words, he could have created it, but they existed after he created it type thing. But he wouldn't answer the question. He said, what a strange question, knowing what I know. So to me, it sounds like maybe the double arcs were created. Maybe he didn't use something that was out there. But again, with that one, we need to rewatch the interview, look at his facial expressions, etc. Now that the Netflix show is out, how many clues are in it? That's a good one. How many clues are in the Netflix doc? He said, well, some are compound. You have to look at a number of scenes to find a singular clue, okay? So there could be different scenes that are all about one clue, and he considers those different scenes one clue. So with that in mind, there are at least 5 singular clues, probably more, in the Netflix doc. And then to go back to earlier, there are 2 that he thinks are super obvious, and he cannot believe. I thought he said nobody's talking about him. Nobody's reached out to him about it. They're in episode 2 or 3, and he is not in the scene. Okay, so we definitely need to look for those. But in the Netflix doc, at least 5 singular clues. The cipher is tough. Can you give us a hint? All right. Yeah, compound clues, Essie. Let me look at the chat real quick. Thanks, everybody, for joining on a Saturday night. A big thank you to Justin he answered questions for what, an hour and a half? I know he was like an hour late, but that's because he's taking all the time with people signing books. You're not understanding. That's very well. I don't know where the treasure is, so I'm not understanding something, Dan. That is true. If anybody wants to email me, cowlazars@gmail.com, I'm happy to talk clues. I'm happy to talk poem. And thank you for all the people who actually sent me your location and said, what do you think? And so far, I haven't really seen one that makes me want to jump in the car and say, you're right. But again, somebody's going to be right. But this Q&A changes some of those locations, in my opinion. So if you have a solve, if you're going to go boots on the ground, make sure you look at these answers because he answered a lot of stuff. All right. All right. No idea what's going on there. Okay. Let's get back to it. So Netflix, at least 5 singular clues. 2 very obvious ones that he's not in, episode 2, episode 3. The cipher is tough. Can you give us a hint? The cipher now. The cipher, nobody is solved. Nobody has told him the correct solution yet to the cipher. He says it's meant to be approachable. You don't need a math degree. If you can do basic math, you are fine. Now, what I couldn't tell is if he was using that as an example, or do you have to use math to figure out the cipher? And that could be as simple numbers convert to letters. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, maybe. The cipher is not in the poem. Breaking news, everybody. The cipher is not in the poem. He didn't say it's in the book. He said it's elsewhere, which I'm assuming means it's in the book. We didn't actually say that. He just said it's elsewhere. The cipher is not a critical hint. You do not need to solve the cipher to find the treasure. But here it is. Steinmark mentioned it. It's huge. The cipher, which is not in the poem, is a nod or hint to what the container is, to what we were all looking for. And that's huge. So if you've actually solved the cipher, please email me, cowlazars@gmail.com. But right now he says nobody's figured it out, or at least nobody has told him the correct answer. So the cipher, which is not in the poem, is a nod or hint to what the container is. That's pretty huge. Is the treasure walking distance? Oh, no, I take it back. Is it walking distance from water silent flight to round the bend past the hole? Okay. The answer is yes. So let's look at the poem real quick, people. People, if that's your real name, let's look at the poem real quick. You think I'd have it already, but I don't. Give me a second. So let's see. Let's deep dive and see what that actually means. I did that. That means I got to open it over here. Come on, a little slow. Come on, computer. You can do it. All right, here we go. Check it out, guys. Let's look at the poem, and then let's look at his answer right there. And that was, is it walking distance from water silent flight to round the bend past the hole? And his answer is yes, which means these clues are out there in the wild. These are literal things. It's a point-to-point treasure hunt. It's a point-to-point map, in my opinion, okay? First, he said the first actionable clue is as hope surges clear and bright. Walk near water's silent flight. So guess what? This is a location. If you didn't think this before, and maybe you did, and you're like, duh, but it's nice to hear it from the creator, isn't it? You are boots on the ground at this point. You should know where to go where water silent flight is, because this was his answer to the question. Is it walking distance from water silent flight to round the bend past the hole? And his answer is yes. We are boots on the ground. We are walking where water silent flight is to round the bend past the hole. So right there, you are boots on the ground. Okay? That's huge. Because if you didn't know, you might have questioned it. Now you know. All right. Maybe changes how you read the poem a little bit, right? Scale of 1 to Forrest Fenn, how would you rate the difficulty of your hunt? No, Trippy, he did not say he had control over editing. He said he had control over one scene. And remember when they filmed in his house? I mean, he had control of everything that was on the bookshelf. He had control of what was all on his computer monitors. That's how I took when he said that. Again, it's open to interpretation, but he had control over what was in his house, right? And the 2 super obvious clues, he was not in the scene, but I think it was something filmed in his house. It's just my opinion. Okay. And yeah, Esty, but then why is it walking? But you have to go there, right? I guess I see what you're saying. It does, just because it's walking distance doesn't mean your boots on the ground. But wouldn't you go walk it? Like, but if it's okay, let me clarify my point, Estes Quest. It means they are literal physical landmarks because they are within walking distance of each other. May not mean your boots on the ground. Maybe you're still on a map figuring it out, but those are two physical places that are within walking distance of each other. So if that clarifies it. Okay. All right. Yeah, and we'll get to that PD Pab 07. That's right. He changed. There's some questions that he answered where it's like, wait a minute, what? Lorraine says he seems to want this solved this summer. He said he's surprised it's not solved. The creator is surprised it has not been found yet, but we're going to get to that. Scale of 1 to Forrest Fenn. How would you rate the difficulty of your hunt? He said there was a lot of thinking process was spent. It can be solved in different ways, but you will all get there by the end of the day. It can be solved in different ways. I thought that was super interesting. Multiple ways to solve the treasure hunt. Optimal solution, and there's a few ways put in as safeguards. Excuse me. He said if somebody doesn't understand one clue, they can limp along and figure it out. Now, does he mean boots on the ground, limp along and figure it out? I don't know. He said the difficulty is subjective. Justin said when the solution is revealed, he knows some people will say that's the dumbest thing I ever heard of, and then some people will like it, kind of like the Forrest Fenn solution. He thought he had more time. The series came out earlier than he thought. And again, if he had all this editing control and everything, unless he's not exactly telling the truth, but he says the series came out a lot earlier than he thought. He thought he had more months. Okay. How big is the biggest fish you caught? He actually didn't say how big, but he said it was in New Mexico, Heron Lake. When he was younger, it was the second largest at the time. You could look it up in a newspaper if you want to know. And he was trolling when he found it. That's how he was fishing, trolling. Did you really break your leg? Yes, he did. How do you tie your fly hook to your line? A clinch knot. For those fishermen out there, you'll know exactly what that means. He said a clinch knot. Now, somebody said the treasure is on public land. Will the sale of BLM land have an effect on the treasure? And Justin actually got choked up. He got choked up at this answer. He said there's a lot of his answer. There's a lot of public land at risk. It's going to be sold to private individuals. It's a big reason why he hid the treasure, and he got visibly choked up. He said he wants people to appreciate the land in this country, be champions of the land. He said the honest answer is he doesn't know. Will the sale of BLM land have an effect on the treasure? But if it does, he will update everyone as soon as he can. That's why he always says, as of this date, because he doesn't know what the future brings. I mean, I know that the current administration is talking about selling a lot of public land to private contractors or builders or whatever. And he got choked up over it. I thought that was really interesting. Does the book, here's a huge one. Does the book or poem mention the checkpoint? The poem... The poem does, in effect, mention the checkpoint because it is a stage of your journey. And Esty, again, to me, that means your boots on the ground. The checkpoint is something you find boots on the ground. He did not put a mark on a tree, but there is something you will find that will make you 100% certain that you are trending in the right direction, that you're in the right area. You know, I know I'm in the right state. I know I'm in the right park, if it's in a park, whatever land it's on. I know it's here somewhere. It is in the poem. The checkpoint, the poem, in effect, does mention the checkpoint because it is a stage of your journey. So one of those lines in the poem is the checkpoint. You are supposed to physically find it, find that thing when you are boots on the ground. The problem is, for us to be 100% certain, there's only one of those things that could fit, right? I mean, I've had 5 different people email me with their arcs on Granite Boldar. Look, in my solve, that's it. And I'm like, but you don't know that's it. You know, it's like Forrest Fenn. It fit everywhere. Whatever his checkpoint is, he's saying 100% you will know you were in the right, trending in the right direction. All right, mostly censored. I have the checkpoint. It is the cipher. It is pre-boots on the ground. It is in the poem. Well, the problem, mostly censored, is he said the cipher is a hint or nod to the container. So I don't understand how that's a checkpoint, because you haven't found the treasure. You found the checkpoint before the treasure, because the checkpoint lets you know you're 100% trending in the right direction. So I don't know how that works with what you're saying, but good luck. We all have our own opinions. All right, hang on. This is completely contrary to what he just said. What part, Dan? What part? The cipher is a container. Yeah, the cipher is a hint to the container, not the checkpoint. I would agree with that. And again, guys, this is all my opinion. That's my channel. I get to give my opinion. If you guys watch it yourself and, you know, maybe we'll have people on. Let me know if you want to come on and debate. We can talk about if you have a different take or a different meaning on some of his answers. All right. All right, share it when you get it. And when you get the treasure, come on the show and tell us about it. All right. Does the book or poem mention the checkpoint? The poem does, in effect, mention the checkpoint because it is a stage of your journey. To me, the journey means boots on the ground. It is something physical you find, boots on the ground. Talk about your 5-year job experience after. They wanted to know about his job experience in college. He said he did not graduate. He left in his junior year. He studied computer science. He had an internship in Tucson, Arizona, worked at Microsoft, worked at Walt Disney Company, did a lot of startups, kind of bounced around. Bob Dylan or Joni Mitchell? He said Bob Dylan. Beatles or Rolling Stones? He said the Beatles. Unix or Linux? He said Linux. Bill Gates or Steve Jobs? He says Steve Jobs was a visionary, profound understanding of tech and timing. Timing is just important as the tech. Apple, he says, has lost a little of that and is in a slow and steady decline, in his opinion. He worked at Building 50 at Microsoft, and he actually knocked over Bill Gates. I think the story is in the book. He won't choose one over the other, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. They asked, Cynthia basically said he is a genius. If you don't know, he's got a bunch of patents. Can you talk about one? He said, she said, you got a bunch of patents while you're at Microsoft. He said one of those is on an iPhone when you tap on an app and it asks for credentials. That was one of his patents from years ago. So he used the example of Bank of America. You can go to the Bank of America's website and log in, or you can use an app on your phone, and that's just a lot more convenient. And his exact words were the underpinning of how that app works. He has a patent on. Star Trek or Star Wars? I think we all know the answer to this one, don't we? It is obviously Star Wars, people, over Star Trek. Obviously. I don't see a Star Trek thing at Disneyland. I see Star Wars. Did Disneyland or Disney World ever have Star Trek? I don't think so. Okay. How did you create? What are some of the things you created for Star Wars at Disney World? He said there's a lot of NDAs that are still in effect, but he did say he created a media vault, which was basically a place for them to store all their ideas so that it wouldn't leak out to competition and to the public. But they did say, I can't really talk about it because of NDAs. Okay, now let's get back to the poem and the search. From where you leave your car to search, is it more or less than a mile to the treasure location? And he said more or less to the treasure, mile or less to the treasure chest. And Cynthia said, he said chest. And he clarified, it is not a chest. The treasure is not in a treasure chest. He clarified that. It's not a chest. He said, when you go to get the treasure, you aren't searching, you are retrieving. No, I meant to play this one. When you go to get the treasure, you aren't searching, you are retrieving. That, to me, makes it sound as if we're supposed to know beforehand where his treasure is, and we're just going to retrieve it. How do you do that? I know GPS is one way to do that. Yeah, when you go to get the treasure, you aren't searching, you're retrieving. I thought he said it is a mile or less from where you park your car to get the treasure chest. But we're going to have to rewatch that one. Some of these are my notes. I have rewatch it and really see what he said. So that's one of them. What is your most proficient programming language? C++ or Java, he said. Is there a range of elevation where the treasure is, like the Forrest Fenn hunt? He said it's below 11,000 feet, and everybody started laughing. I think the majority of the American West is below 11,000 feet. Now, this one's interesting. How far from the first clue to the last clue in miles? And he says that's not possible to answer. Based on how the clues are structured, it's impossible to answer. What does that mean? If this is a physical boots on the ground point to point, there is a measurement in miles of how long that takes. He says that it's not possible to answer. So I could be totally wrong. Maybe you are supposed to solve everything from home, and then once you know where the treasure is, you go and retrieve it. Maybe the clues are not, this is me talking, maybe the clues are not physical landmarks. Maybe it's something else. How far from the first clue to the last clue in miles? It's not possible to answer. Based on how clues are structured, it's impossible to answer. Now that makes me think something else is going on that we haven't picked up on yet. Are clues in the poem in consecutive order? And the important part was from top to bottom. Yes, the clues are in consecutive order from top to bottom. You don't start in the middle and wrap around. That was a theory with the Forrest Fenn poem for a while. They are in order, top for bottom. Is there a 200 or 500 foot searcher? He says it's a little early to say, but he says people that have been less than 2 miles from the treasure. There are searchers that have been less than 2 miles. He said, I got to think about what people have emailed me. So it's people that have emailed him their location. That's how he knows. There are people that have been less than 2 miles, and certainly even less than that. And somebody in the chat pointed out, but nobody has said they found the checkpoint. So it seems to me the checkpoint is a lot closer to the treasure location than we think. So people have been within 2 miles. That's crazy. Crazy. All right. Do you consider railroad tracks a structure? Yes, he says it is. That is a structure. They are man-made and they are a structure. Then they asked him, is your hunt based on naturally occurring landscapes? And he says there's multiple ways to work through the poem. It could be true, the naturally occurring landscapes. It could be true, the entire hunt is based on naturally occurring structures and landscapes, naturally occurring. But there is one clue that someone could say there is a man-made occurrence to it. And that's one of the ones I have is rewatch it and get what his exact answer was. So again, everybody, that interview, that Q&A will be uploaded to Cowlazars' channel maybe by tomorrow, although I'm not going to make any promises. And then me and Christy are going to watch it with all of you live, and we're going to break down each one of these answers. It'll be a little bit easier when we actually see him say it real time, right, in the video. One clue someone could say is that there is a man-made occurrence to it, whatever that means. The picture of his mom in the book in the water, he says that is the beaver head. He said the picture was taken before he was born. But the question was, where she is on that river, is it publicly accessible? And he said his guess is that it is not publicly accessible. Don't know why somebody answered that, but his guess is it was not publicly accessible. Now, this one's kind of interesting. Can you give a floor? The treasure is not below, meaning he took it to mean elevation. He gave her the max elevation of not above 11,000 feet. Somebody asked, what is the floor? What is it not below? And he would not answer that question. There are no intentional red herrings in the book. Now, there might be unintentional red herrings. He gave the example of in the book, he may say the table was green. Well, somebody may say green is important. And all he was doing was saying the table was green. So there's no intentional red herrings, but he can't control how people interpret things. And this one's awesome. Will you announce if the checkpoint is reached? And he says if he is aware of it, he will announce when somebody has found the checkpoint. There it is. So he will announce when he is aware that somebody has found the checkpoint. That's pretty awesome. Do you like pickles? Yes. Don't know why that was asked. Why not wait for your leg to heal when you hid the treasure? Because if you remember, guys, he broke his leg and he hid the treasure when he still had like a brace on or something. He said there were a number of circumstances that had to get done in a certain amount of time. He couldn't wait any longer. He had a schedule to keep. And he didn't go into detail. That's what he said. Any hints to the cipher? He said not in the poem. So the cipher, we went over that already, right? The cipher is not in the poem. Are there any hints to the question was, are there any hints to what the cipher? And he said it's not in the poem. The cipher that gives you a hint to what the container is not in the poem. He said it's elsewhere. We're assuming the book. And then he goes into AI, and he is really concerned about AI. He's like the biggest risk to all of us is AI. He explicitly states in the book he does not give permission to run the book through AI. He doesn't think we're there yet, but at some point in the future, he thinks the AI would be able to solve it. He's done everything in his power so that AI is not the winner, were his exact words. Soon AI will be smarter than all of us. Interesting. Somebody pointed out the first edition, second edition of the book. Second edition of the book has this sticker on it that looks like a sticker. There was a small D on the spine of the book. A small letter D, as in dog, was on the spine of the book in the first edition, and it was removed in the second edition. He said it was just due to formatting changes. He says there's no intentional clues in the difference. Okay, that D, there's no clues in that D. Are there any clues in the cover art at all? And he said, none that I've specified. So in other words, he won't answer the question if there are clues in the cover of the book. Now, this is pretty cool. He did this just for the people at the book signing. The way I understand it, the bookstore there in Dillon ordered like 700 books, and Justin signed all of them, I believe, like ahead of time, and then he personalized and things. But what he did is on page 150 of one of those books, halfway down the page, in black ink, he wrote an email address. He says that the ink ran a little bit, but it does end in iCloud.com. Whoever has that book, email that address. It's an address he set up just for this little fun game that he has. And that person will get the saddlebag leather briefcase that was in Netflix. You remember the briefcase that he was putting the treasure in Netflix? He will mail you that briefcase. And also, he's going to throw in the 2 coffee mugs that are in Netflix as well. You see one mug, and then you see 2. So whoever is the lucky person to have that book, he asked in the crowd, does anybody have it? And nobody admitted it. Nobody raised their hand. He said he was surprised. So you might want to call the bookstore tomorrow if they're open, or Monday, and say, do you have any books left that he signed? Because one of those books has this email address on page 150, and whoever gets it, he will email you the saddlebag. I think I'm saying that right. Saddlebag or saddleback, whatever it was. The leather briefcase. He has a link to it on his website where you could order it. It's like a $600 or $700 briefcase. He will ship that to you along with the 2 coffee cups. So that's pretty cool. Pretty awesome. They asked the question of why is the hiding spot beautiful, and they gave 3 examples, and one was like the symbolism and the beauty, and he just said yes to all of it. I got to rewatch it to get the exact words, but basically what it meant is to him it's a beautiful place, but it also has sentimental meaning to him. Okay, got to rewatch that one to get his exact answer. Here was a good one. Why in the ebook are the pictures black and white, but there's only one picture that's in color, which is of the coins? He said it's just a formatting issue. He wanted one picture in color, so he chose the coins. Now, he didn't say if there's a reason, meaning that coin picture is in color and the others are in black and white. He just said it was a formatting issue. That's why he did it that way. How would you train Tucker to help you do the treasure hunt? He says, there's a super brute force way to solve the poem. He's like, but that would be so difficult. Like if you trained a dog to sniff gold and then you searched everywhere, that would be a brute force way, but that's impossible because if you don't know what state it's in, etc. He just said if you have dogs, make sure they're trained, they don't go after elk, that kind of thing. Can you specify how a random person won't just stumble upon it? And he says it's not in proximity to a man-made trail. And he didn't go into any details other than that. But then I think he said, but it's not far, but it's not in proximity to a man-made trail. Then somebody asked, can you drive a semi to the location? And he's like, a semi truck? And he said, no, you have to actually park and hike to find the treasure. So no, you can't drive a semi truck to the location. And they said, well, what about where you park your car? And then he said something about, well, who said, no, they said, what about to the parking spot? And he said, well, who said there's a parking spot? So everybody kind of laughed on that one. Will you continue giving clues? Yes, at some point he will. It's still very early. The treasure hunt's only 3 months old. He's wondering why it hasn't been found yet. I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing. He's wondering why. To him, it's easy. Why has it not been found yet? In the book, he falls off his bike and loses his teeth. They said, how much did it hurt? He said, yeah, it hurt a lot, and the front teeth are not real. That all had to be replaced. Is the treasure buried? He is not specified. He said, if you know where to look, it won't matter if it's buried or not because you'll know where to look. So again, he's making it sound as if from the poem, we will know exactly where to go, exact spot, okay? Don't know how. Obviously, that's the trick to finding it, but he makes it sound as if we're going to go to retrieve it, okay? And when you're going to retrieve it, there is a checkpoint that lets you know 100% you're in the right area. Yeah, that is interesting. If you know where to look, it won't matter if it's buried, but he has never specified if it's buried or not. Here's a good one. Are all the clues and the treasure in one state? And he said he might answer that in the future. He's not going to answer it right now. That's an interesting one. But here's another one. Are there physical objects you can find along the way? He says yes. Now, I'm assuming the person didn't specify it, but I'm assuming physical objects that make sense in the book or the poem. And he said yes, but he didn't really clarify what he meant. So there are physical objects you can find along the way, but he didn't say what he meant. And then last but not least, this is a huge one. Pay attention, kids. The question was, is the bride live? He used the word live, not alive, but I think they meant is the bride in the poem. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. They asked, is the bride live? And his answer was, wait for it, the bride is not a person that is alive right now. The bride is not a person that is alive right now, which implies it's somebody that was alive in the past, although maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. But the bride is not a person that is alive right now. I mean, he could have said the bride is not a person that is alive, but he said right now. A lot of these, we're going to have to go through these more than once. So there it is. Thank you for the Q&A, Justin. A lot of good info. Let's see. Just off the top of my head, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. The cipher is not in the poem, okay? One person, to his knowledge, has figured out the tech clue. We don't know what the tech clue is, but one person figured it out, posted it on social media, and everybody just disregarded it. The cipher gives a hint to what the container is, which is pretty fun. Yeah, that's it. I mean, the biggest one, I think, is Netflix. 5 singular clues, episode 2 or 3 in a scene that he is not in, a scene that he had some control over. I don't think that means he had editing rights. He had some control over. To me, it's a setup in his home. They are obvious clues. He can't believe that nobody's figured it out yet. So what I'm going to do is watch episode 2 and 3 and see if we can narrow down. At least let's get the time marks of his home. I'm assuming it's his home that he is not in. And we'll go from there. So there it is. Me and K-Pro go live as we always do. And once we get this thing uploaded, and who is the bride's groom? And are they alive? Well, that wasn't asked. So time to watch Netflix. Yeah, I would say I'm going to watch it again. No question was asked about the groom. And again, we'll get it uploaded as soon as we can, guys. You guys can watch this for yourself, make your own decisions on what the answers meant, how they help. But I think I'm going to hit Netflix right now and just see if I can figure it out. If any of you are in Discord, I'm going to jump in Speakeasy. Let's kind of watch it together and maybe we can discuss. So nice. Thanks, Cool Ma. Appreciate it. And yeah, big thank you to Emma and Jam for treasure hunt with us, for live streaming it. Big thank you to K-Pro for going. She's been in Montana for a whole month, for God's sakes, for representing Cowlazars there. She had the Cowlazars t-shirt on. And getting up there, Emma and K-Pro got up there, I think, for an hour because Justin was late. So they were kind of entertaining the crowd until he showed up. And a big thank you to Cynthia for asking the questions. And if you don't know, if you didn't watch our last show, Justin has a documentary film crew there. It sounds like he's making a documentary about searchers looking for the treasure, which is pretty awesome. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Okay, that's it, everybody. Hope you have a good Saturday night. And we will see you next time. I'll see you in Speakeasy if you're going to be over there. See ya.